Wherever you are.
All right, awesome. Welcome, Maria. I'm so finally excited to share that you're joining our board. And you just gave a keynote speech on engineering budgets and how engineering leaders can be a hero. First, tell me about what were the key takeaway that you want everybody to take from that talk?
All right. Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to officially join your team. We've known each other for years. I really admire you as such a strong leader and CEO and compassionate person as well. Yeah, so we just talked about budgeting with about 1,000 engineering leaders, and we got a few laughs, right? So I did not fully expect that, but I was very happy to hear the laughter on a Wednesday morning, people here to learn. Budgeting might seem kind of pretty far away from the day-to-day engineering work, but as an engineering leader, as your career advances, it's actually a very, very crucial part of the leadership skill set and core competency. Just to summarize, we talked about alignment, like how do you get aligned with your peers, your partners, and really set the budget that maximize the business ROI. And the second, we have the 3 A's, right? The second A was allocate. Yeah, you got your budget. How do you allocate along the time dimension, the people dimension, and the key takeaway there is don't think of just a headcount as numbers, 5 engineer, 10 engineer, but really get to the dollar amount. I think that's an inflection point on this journey of growth for engineering leader. And the third is how do you amplify? And that's the part I was really most excited to share. And also something, we've learned together in the recent years that you can have elasticity in engineering capacity, very similar to we have compute elasticity, right? Yeah. So, and the story that I learned from you, from just watching, being a part of Get Start with your customer, that amplification was just really, I've never seen anything like that before.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing those stories. This is super exciting. To come back to your background before, you've managed some really large engineering teams. What's been keeping you busy over the last few years? What have you been doing in the engineering space?
Yeah. I just started a new company.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I think now I'm officially a serial entrepreneur.
Welcome to the club. Welcome to the club.
It's not the first time. Before that, I was at Google, and before that, I was at Meta, and I was part of the Instagram team, and then I was part of the Meta AI team. And prior to that, I was at LinkedIn, and then Tinder as their CTO. Yeah.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And if you were to give any key attribute for your success as engineering manager leader, what would that be?
I think if it's a one-word answer, I would say ownership. Right. It doesn't matter what role I was in, either it's the junior engineer or engineering manager, director, VP, I always took ownership and hold myself and my team accountable and really just look at the picture, what problems are we solving, what value are we delivering, and I feel like that is the core that really motivated me and also pushed me to continue to learn and grow and deliver more value and bigger impact.
That is interesting because for most engineering leaders, they tend to think of ownership as something where you take your work to the finish line or you own the code base, but not as much on the business ROI. Tell us more about what does ownership mean in your mind when you want a team to take ownership? What do you look for in those leaders what makes you believe that they are taking the right ownership that you want them to take?
Yeah, the ownership can be applied to business outcomes, to quality of your product, to composition of team, right? All of the above. But I think really the flip side, ownership is accountability, right? I think this morning we chatted a little bit when things go wrong in a healthy culture, right? I think in your team, for example, you say everybody raise their hand. I say, this is me, I'm going to take this, I'm going to fix it, right? Versus some other culture that's not as healthy. Everybody say, not my problem, not my problem, not my problem, all around, right? And really, if you think about, ownership as an anchor, really has no boundaries, right?
Yeah.
I mean, including I see the floor is dirty, I'm going to sweep it, right? And you just really take the work, with more passion.
On your shoulder. And you mentioned ownership goes really well with accountability, right? As you mentioned. Now, to go take a step back, what inspired you to become an engineering leader in the first place? Like, why? What do you remember any single moment when you felt like, oh, I'm going to go down this route?
Yes, I actually do, and I have to just really attribute, all of my entire life to my mom because she bought me a computer. Originally I just wanted to play video games. And back
like
then, the good video games are on the computer. And back then, it wasn't really common for a household to have a computer like it is today. It was actually quite expensive. I think it took my mom's, whole year saving to buy me that desktop computer, and I just really couldn't walk away from it. And so I was very certain I want to study computer science. I crossed out all the other majors.
Already.
Yeah, and then the rest is history. Yeah.
That is incredible. And do you remember the moment where you transitioned for the first time from an IC to a manager? What was the transition like when you made that transition? Did you miss coding when you did that, or did you realize that the leading engineering team is where we're gonna head next?
Yeah. So this, I have a different point of view. I don't think about it as a transition from A to B, right? I think we can be both.
Oh, wow.
Right? I think I continue to keep myself, very much up to date on the cutting edge. I can still code a little bit. Definitely not the best coder, probably the worst in my company right now. But I never walked away from it. In my career, I actually went back and forth.
Okay.
Yeah, I went and manager and IC and manager and IC and manager and IC. Yeah. So I think even in Facebook, actually checked in quite a bit of code, and I remember that caught people's attention. They said, you're a VP and I see all these code. I was like, I hope I didn't mess it up. But my recommendation is as you develop your career, people ask me, should I go the senior IC route or should I go the management route? I try to keep yourself, growing both fronts. I think it is possible, and it definitely opens up more doors. And I think being technically, very sharp and very strong will make you a good manager. And also having the people skills, communication skills, and organization skills will make you a stronger architect and stronger IC as well.
That's a very good point, because mostly when you look at advice online, they either tell you that you can either have a manager schedule or an IC schedule. But at the end of the day, if you have to lead your engineers, you have to lead by being ahead. And I think if you lose that touch for being an IC, you won't be able to lead them effectively. You end up just becoming somebody who's conveying information left and right.
Yes, totally. So it's not like a diverge path, like a binary fork. No, I think these two paths actually converges more than it diverges.
Okay, that's very, very interesting. Going back to Meta, I think one of the key themes that Zuckerberg announced was a year of efficiency. And it wasn't alone. We had some extreme example like Twitter, dialing up on efficiency. Now the whole industry is revolved around how engineering teams need to be more efficient. In your experience, is there any common or maybe non-common ways in which engineering teams are inefficient? And what have you seen in the industry? When you go to a new team, what are the common areas that you focus on to figure out, are they as efficient as they should be?
Yeah, I think I love efficiency projects. I think it just kind of energizes me, and probably also my upbringing. We're frugal, and we also wanted to find opportunities to amplify, given a fixed amount of resources, how can I produce more with less? So I was actually glad when I saw the industries picking up this, kind of more in the front and center, right? I think it's a never-ending road. You can always find more efficiency, at least in my experience. I've never seen, oh my gosh, this is perfectly efficient. No, you will always find ways as you evolve, right? And the ways you look at it is opportunities are one is just a high-performing team, right? A low-performing team, inherently you're wasting a lot of resources, right? And two is you need to look at tooling. Are we leveraging the most the advanced technology in terms of tooling, so everybody doing their work, right, can be empowered to be more productive. Yeah, and the third, you have to look at processes, right? If there are tons of overhead, miscommunication, and just a lot of red tape all around, and people get frustrated, right? That also hurts efficiency. Yeah, so those are kind of the areas of opportunities. And then I find one method, right, that works every single time for leaders. If you want to improve efficiency, just listen to your team, right? People on the ground, they know where the choke points, bottleneck, friction, like they absolutely know. So if you do a listening tour or you just really invite individuals on your team to open up to you and just have these conversations, you will find opportunities.
That is very interesting. And I think one thing I've also seen with engineering teams is that when they go down this efficiency route, one of the first things that comes to their mind is that, oh, tech debt. How do we manage it? Do we do that? Some teams even go as far as they do a rewrite efforts internally within the team. In your past experience, how connected is efficiency with tech debt? How do you figure out tech debt? How much do you do? Is it something like, can you be too extreme in doing it? Like, what's your take on that?
Yeah. One is I want to say, we use the word tech debt a lot, and it kind of have this very negative annotation. I use a different word. I call it tech mortgage, the mortgage.
Oh, wow,
right?
that's so interesting.
Yeah. So we all have mortgages, right? When we buy a house, and you don't want everybody to save up, and you never buy that house, right?
Yeah.
So if you think about that way, that it's actually necessary, right? Meaning you're not going to wait till you have the perfect software. It's just like, oh, I need to save all these dollars so that I can buy the house. Yes, you can incur some tech debt with a very clear intention, right? Either it's a time to market, or being lean, or just move faster, but be intentional, right? We're incurring these tech debt because we gained something else more valuable. But that said, right, the mortgage you did need to pay. Yeah,
eventually.
Especially if you get one of those balloons, boom, you have to pay it off. I think you've worked with your client, and in some of the balloon came due, right? Like one of the
too late sometimes, and they're drowning in the
they were
balloon.
like, okay, this piece of software was built in the 80s or something. We gotta rewrite the whole thing. Yeah, and also just kind of tackle that head on from a very kind of a constructive point of view. So I don't take it too negatively. So you're going to pay this off, but you're going to incur a new loan, right? Yeah, it's just the nature. Yes, the nature of our business. Even if you think it's perfect today, 2 years later you're like, it's not great, right?
I really like your mortgage analogy, because most people, even if they have the money, they won't buy the home without a mortgage anyways. Because why would they deploy all their dollars in one place when they could gain tech debt? And to your point, like, if you do take the right debt early on, you could go to market faster. You could. Do you have any examples, either anonymous in your past experience, where tech debt was a good thing and that worked out really well?
I think there's always tech debt. Every company I worked at, I wouldn't look at the code base and say, oh, this is perfect. I was like, yeah, we did that. That was a hack. And if it worked, it worked, right? We do value the customer experience, right? The customers don't see our code base, right? And so, you want to make sure your customers are happy, you're competitive, but the rest, I think we do have some discretions. And also it's subjective, right? What I see as a tech debt, the other person might see as state of art, right? Let's also acknowledge it is a subjective assessment somewhat. Yeah. So going to the tech mortgage, right? I want to introduce another, just a concept. It started as a accident, and it was funny. So my team was working hard. We're an early stage company, so I sent a note. I said we've gone through a pretty intense period. Take the weekend off or something, or take a day off. And have some R&R. Right? Okay. And I came back on Monday, and guess what my team did? The R&R, of course, I meant what rest and relax, right? They took it as rebase and refactor. Oh my God! They just started refactoring the whole code base. They actually said, "Where's that R&R? We're gonna do," because I think it bothered when a couple of people, they were like, "Oh, we really gotta rebase. We gotta refactor the code. The code is a mess, right?" And so from that point on, we have this this like just
Urge
a
to-
process. Like
yeah.
so it's kind of like every month you have to pay off
Yeah,
your mortgage,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
We do R&R once a
Mhm,
while, but
mhm.
it's actually refactoring the code just to chip it off here and there. Yeah, so
Okay,
it doesn't
that's-
go ballooning and become unmanageable in the future. Yeah.
In your past experience, as you've grown a lot of engineering leaders, what has differentiated the really good leaders from the really leader that struggled? Like, what was the difference between? If you interview an individual, what do you look for when you recruit another engineering leader?
Yeah, I think it's very multifaceted. Yeah, it's hard to put in a few words. But a few things I look for is I think, like to be a strong engineering leader, you have to be a clear thinker, and you have to communicate well, right? All leadership roles, you need to communicate well. I think the bar is even higher for engineering leader because often we're talking about concepts that are abstract.
People don't
right?
understand them by
Yes.
default.
Yes, often you need to talk with people that are not in the domain, right? You have to translate and really make sure everybody understand. You have to rally the team, right? It's clear thinker communication, and I love an engineering leader who takes out ownership, right? Who just really take it to the end and accountability, and there are a lot of best practices like behavioral interviews and coding exercises. My take on this: do take it seriously.
Okay.
I even do a bit of analysis of precision and recall.
Okay.
Meaning if I passed on a candidate, I kind of would like follow that person
Okay,
and then
okay.
I say,
See where
okay,
they
was
go.
it a bad call? Should I
Okay.
not have passed on?
Okay.
Right. That's
That's
and
very
on the
interesting. That's very
recall, and
interesting.
of course on the precision, if you're great hire, we acknowledge it,
Yeah.
and sometimes we make a hire that's just really not a good fit, and I really go
Learn
back and
from that.
re-examine. Right.
Okay,
What did we
okay,
miss?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. Now coming back to GitStart, tell us what made you invest into GitStart to begin
Yeah,
with.
I still remember the first time we met. The story you shared with me was so heartwarming. You shared me with a story in the remote part of the world, like these women who really didn't have a lot of opportunities career-wise, but they have a computer at home, they're online, and they're either self-taught or learned in school, and they're thriving on GitStart. I just, you couldn't stop me. I said, I'm writing a track. Yes, I'm in. What else can I do?
Well, the good news
Yeah.
is a year later, we figured out a way for you to bring you to our board. And
That's
thank you so
great.
much for joining us.
Yeah.
We're so excited. Tell me why we are the only board right now. Like, what made you join GitStart as a board member?
Yeah. So that's the first time we met, right? I saw you as a very compassionate leader and has a very clear vision. And then the next couple years, I also watched you both grow as a leader and also just your level of resilience. It wasn't just always smooth sailing, right?
Yes,
People think
yes.
it is, right? But there
As a startup,
there
you have
was
ups and downs.
COVID,
Yeah.
there was, contractions, there was all these curveballs that's thrown at you, and just really just the momentum, the growth, and the resiliency that I really admire, and being, on part of this journey. And then I remember we talked about AI, and that really inspired me, to even contribute more at my capacity. Yeah, actually, love to hear you share a little bit more on the latest on how we have human in the loop, but AI powered, this unique approach, right, that GitStart has taken to both leverage the power of AI, the latest algorithms, and also leverage the power of humans and engineers.
No, this is exactly right. Like, our mission from the beginning has been to be able to empower the next generation of engineering developers to grow. And as you shared the story with those women, many of those women were in Afghanistan. They couldn't get on a video call. And the fact that they can work on the computer without knowing English and still be productive on some of the best code bases was inspiring, right? Now, one thing we have seen is that we designed a system to manage human developers across the planet with software, but then we realized that same software works really well with AI agents. And I think one of the key things we're coining in the market is this engineering elastic capacity, where if we can take in workload from some of these engineering teams manage both AI agents and humans effectively as part of one unified software development lifecycle, we can deliver pull requests back to those customers that are both accelerated with the AI, but checked and validated and meets the quality bar of human developers across the world. And that's really something that's been very exciting. And thank you so much for also pushing us to get to that vision. I know that we had a glimpse of that vision.
Yeah.
It was a bit bold and a bit crazy for some people, but you saw it and you believe that the future of engineering is AI agents and developers coming together in one harmony.
In harmony.
And the good news is you've also taken that in your own company as well. Tell me about what you're working on your side. In your new startup.
Yeah, we're still very, very early stage. I'm following your footsteps.
Thank you.
But we are right now, researching and experimenting. One thing we shared on our website is we trained the models to be very high EQ, right? Just observing, I felt like there was an opportunity for the AI to have a high EQ. It's actually an 8-dimension definition of what high EQ means, and we really fine-tuned and trained the model to be a very friendly, very high EQ, very pleasant model to interact with.
One thing I'm really passionate about is how AI and humans are just coming together in such an effective way. It's like a yin and yang where you have AI models which take the lead and humans come in the loop to finish it. And then you have humans going forward and AI can co-pilot and make you accelerate you a lot more. Final question from my side is that, were there any projects where you wish you had GetStart, and how would you have deployed it if you go back in time if you had GetStart?
Yeah, that's a great question. If I could go back in time and have the magic, I would use GetStart probably in all of my projects. Yeah, I will give you an example. One that actually I feel a little bit guilty of. We really need to just completely rewrite a code base that it just wasn't done in the right way. And then the company was successful. They grew. They have a lot more customers, and then it just really was not handling the level of traffic and concurrency. So what the team did is, I think they rented a house, Airbnb. Everybody just took their luggage and
everybody just came to live together.
Yes, we're gonna rewrite the whole. They worked so many hours, and then of course it took longer. And then their spouses were complaining.
Everything was halted at the same time.
Yes, and then even that impacted their family life.
Wow.
I felt so bad. I felt so guilty. But the team was very committed, and they have to get it all done because you can't really do it halfway. You're rewriting the whole system, and then it goes back online. Eventually, we came out, with victory. But then the whole process, I felt guilty. It really wasn't the right way.
It wasn't sustainable.
And I was apologizing to the family and everything. Yeah, like that's a great example. If you and I would sit together, we can slice the code and really get it done beautifully, right? Very quickly with confidence and without people, making personal sacrifices, having their, wife or husband yelling at them.
Because they did a squeeze, right, at the end of the day.
It was crazy. I felt so bad.
Yeah, I think one thing I've seen with engineering leaders is that whenever they have, they need to pick up pace, either they squeeze a team or go into war mode. How have you seen those to be effective tools with engineering leaders, and how much can engineering leaders squeeze their team?
Yeah, I highly recommend not to do it, although I'm very guilty. I've done it many times, but it's kind of putting a Band-Aid on if you were in the war room, like something was already not right. And of course, it's always out of necessity. It's not always, I'm just going to put team. That's kind of weird, right? It's out of necessity. You're kind of patching things up. It is necessary, but we really should try our best to avoid it at all costs. And really going back to elasticity, and I love to making this analogy that, we have compute elasticity, right? Peak traffic, Black Friday or whatever, you run and then kind of you taper down. The surge demand is going to happen, right? But just putting like all these human beings to give up their personal life and everything to do that meets that surge demand, it's not the right way.
It's not sustainable.
It's not the right way. So as engineering leaders, we have to think outside the box, right? And also, kind of move away from I'm just going to get unlimited headcounts. I'm just going to make people work 24/7. I think both of these things are out of fashion, right? So you have to be considerate with, have a very sustained pace and reduce the kind of the surge and the valley, because the valley comes, people are not happy. The morale is typically low.
People burn out.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's so great to have Git Start. I know you and I were already talking. We're still very early, but I'm definitely signed up.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the conversation, Maria. Really appreciate it and looking
Yeah.
forward to working together.
All right, same here. Same
thank
here.
you.
All right.